Hello everyone, this is Berrin from Ragic speaking. We're going to start our webinar in a little bit and we're going to talk about cleaning up your data and preventing duplicates while you're having your data inside Ragic. I'm going to talk about cleaning up your data and the aspect of spreadsheets. But if you have any other questions about this topic, you're free to let me know. Also, I must tell that I have been under the weather, so my voice is not very nice, and I have a little thing in my throat, so I might not be able to talk very long today. And this is going to be a short-ish webinar, depending on our topic as well. So I apologize if I cough or anything. All right. We still have around 3 more minutes left, so if you have been waiting, you can go and get yourself a water or something, and we'll start in a little bit. I will be announcing our June webinar soon, and we're going to have, I think, 3 this month, and we haven't really set the topics in stone, but they're going to be more for newcomers to Ragic now, and perhaps one advanced topic. Alright, so if you again have any questions about your own case regarding data cleanup, or any other questions regarding duplicate data in your existing database, just give us a shout out. There's a live chat on the right side of your window. It should be on the right side if you have a larger screen, but if you have a smaller screen, then you have to scroll down a little bit and you have to be logged in into YouTube if you want to write anything in the live chat, as far as I know. Alright, so again, we're going to be talking about data cleanup and how crucial it is to you for database management and the best practices. So I do have quite a few tips for Excel, but I'm not going to go through all of them today, and I actually found a very good guide on the Microsoft Office support guide for data cleanup, and I think it may be very useful for most of the people who are trying to get their data cleaned up, and I'll link that in the video on the live chat in a little bit. Regarding this topic, when you're getting started with your database, whether you're keeping your data in a spreadsheet that is very messy and has a lot of records, of course, it will depend on how your company wants to keep the data. But if you are the manager and would like to clean up some things, for example, if we had a products list like this one and you kind of want to clean it up or add more things, then there are some things that are quicker done in Excel or other spreadsheet software than in Ragic. But it's always a good idea to know your options to see what you can do with your data, right? So for the people who have just joined, if you have had any particular troubles about cleaning up your data and duplicate data inside your database, then it might be a good idea to write in the live chat so that we'll see what your problem is and we can maybe address that as well. But I'm gonna go through a quick overview on how to keep your data first. So on the spreadsheet aspect, I know a lot of people don't have a unique identifier like we do over here. So most of the time, if you have a list of products or a list of something else, perhaps you do have a unique identifier, but that doesn't really happen on people. So here I do have a column dedicated for a customer ID for all these people, but most of the people don't really do that, and they end up searching for people through their first names and last names, which is not very ideal in most cases. Now, I do mention this in every webinar, but having a unique identifier for each of your database sheet types is crucial in data management because you want to be able to identify records from each other without looking at anything else or without the risk of having it duplicated, because duplicate data leads to a whole lot of other problems. Now, if I had kept these customers with their names, what would happen? So that's usually something that people might not think of. But if we, for example, have Martin Corson here, we might actually have 3 other customers with the first name shared with Martin over here, or like they might even have the same full name. So that might lead to problems when you're managing data, because sometimes when you're keeping records on what you talked with Martin, the negotiation, or what they bought, it might get mixed up with other customers. So a lot of people, when they're Magic customers, like to use their phone number, especially their mobile. But for senior citizens, it's nice to know that they actually sometimes even share a cell phone or an email address. I do know in my personal life a lot of people who share the email address. So it's not always a good indicator to use as a unique identifier. So again, don't go by full name, or you can't really always trust the phone number or email as well. So a good way is having a unique identifier that separates all these customers from each other. So even if you decide that you would like to combine accounts, for example, couples or whatnot in your membership, you can still do that by having another field for that and selecting which account or accounts it's tied to, so that people can share points or whatever. But it's crucial to have each customer as a unique identifier, because if you want to later at the time, if you want to send an email blast to a specific demographic, then it's easier to filter, and then you have like the right person. Does that make sense? So again, to reiterate my point, it's crucial to have this type of unique identifier and use that while if you want to identify your records from each other. So this doesn't really have to be in Ragic. It's very crucial in database management in general to have a unique identifier. And in Ragic, it really helps for linking sheets to one another. So if I wanted to link Kyle and have all his purchases listed under Kyle's account, then it's very easy to do that in Ragic. Alright, so another thing while cleaning up your data, it's always the best if you actually have a format that you can follow. So I know that some people who are keeping their data might have, for example, lowercase. Like, for example, if I had Washington with a small w and every other Washington was a sentence case or title case, then it would not really be the same entry, because Washington in computing, Margaret is saying, am I right in thinking that you have exported to Excel to do this? I missed the very beginning. No, Margaret, we're talking about basic data practices. I did not export anything. This is just a huge dump of data, actually, that was downloaded from a random name generator, and I added a unique identifier. So we're talking about best database management practices. This doesn't have to be in Excel. It doesn't have to be in a spreadsheet format. It can be on another software or in Ragic. So we're talking about general things right now. Alright, so generally when we are having a field that has many, here we have states, but it could be city as well. Having a format that you can follow is very important, because you don't really want to be able to not group these. So in computing, if I had Washington with a small w, oh sorry, this is saved as a CSV, so let me save as Excel so I can edit this properly. There we go. So if I had a Pennsylvania with small p, this would be different from Pennsylvania with a large P. So when you're cleaning up your data, make sure that you have consistent data in your fields. So it doesn't really have to be on Excel or anything, but it's really easy to kind of modify these on Excel with find and replace or making everything the same case. By the way, I did mention in the beginning of the webinar that I have a very good cleanup guide from the office support. So for Excel users, let me just paste this on the live chat over here so that you guys can have a look if you want to. So that's a very good guide for cleanup that I found, and point by point it really makes lets you make sure that your data is consistent. Anyway, consistency is really key, because if I had two different Pennsylvanias spelled differently, then they wouldn't be the same thing in computing terms, and grouping would be harder. And another problem with this is if I have a space after a data, it will look the same, right? It doesn't look any different, these two. Let me zoom in a little bit. So these two don't actually look different at all, but this one has a space after my data. So that's not very consistent, and it might mess up some things. So that I think is called trailing spaces. So you can look it up at the documentation I sent you just now in Excel, and there's a way to fix that as well. So you can use methods like find and replace. You can use some formulas. Excel usually has a way to fix things for formulas. For example, if you don't have a backup, definitely backup, because you don't want to lose your previous data if you do something wrong while cleaning it up, right? So always save a backup and make sure that you're editing the most recent version. And if you have coworkers that are actually working, because I know that a lot of you people do this, is that if you're co-sharing a spreadsheet, usually some people just have versions of the same file, and then they might not be able to collate it all the time, and then everyone has different versions. So you don't want to do that. You want to have all your versions and then work on the latest versions with the most up-to-date data, and then clean that one up. All right. So again, we don't really want to use the email, phone, or a full name for the unique identifier. We don't want to have different formatting on the same column. We always want to keep things consistent. All right. So for eliminating duplicates, I think the spreadsheet also has an option for that, and you can filter and then delete the duplicates. I think it should be quite easy. Anyway, yeah, it's also in the documentation over here, like removing duplicates here. So you can filter for a unique value and then remove duplicates. Ragic is also really good with removing duplicates in some cases, and I'll show you when I'm importing two ways of doing that. Another point I wanted to make with this database cleaning up for your data is that sometimes you might have several columns that you want to combine, or you want to separate those. So those are combining is most easiest with concatenation formulas. So if I had, let's see, yeah, I already did that here, but if you want to have a full address, for example, for a person, you can use a formula to concatenate some of the fields, and then use this to populate everything else. Alright, should I go over that? Does anyone not know how to? Jay is asking, can Ragic check for duplicates as they are manually added versus imported? Yeah, that's the next point I want to do. Ragic can check for duplicates, and there are a few methods that we use to prevent duplicates being imported into Ragic. So let's make a simpler case over here. For example, let's say that I had like a row here. Let's copy this, and then let's say I have the same thing underneath my data over here. And let me actually duplicate a few more. So I do have a few duplicates, but it's okay because I have their unique ID here. It's best to have the unique ID to make sure that it's actually the same, because I can have different red t-shirts, but they might have different product IDs. In this case, they have the same product ID, so I can be sure that it's the same product. So I don't want duplicates of the same data while I'm importing this. Now I have the same data structure here with the product ID, the name, the category, and the price being listed over here, but this database is empty right now. So I'm going to be importing this file into Ragic and then see how I'm going to prevent the duplicates. Alright, so let's save this data. I think it's saved over here, right? This is my file that I'm going to use. Alright, so while in Ragic, let me show you a couple things that will help me prevent these duplicates. Now, one thing in the design mode for the form design you can do is using the unique feature over here. So if I click unique, Ragic will make sure that no two same product ID is saved. So this is used actually mostly in extreme cases. For example, if you want to make entirely sure that an email is not a duplicated email, then Ragic will not allow me to save the same thing. For example, if I'm manually entering data, for example, let's see, straw hat, and the category is, I don't know, April, okay, for $12, okay? I just saved that. But the product ID, when I'm creating it, since it's an auto-generated field, it also masks me from creating my own. But if I were to actually try editing another existing data, I don't know, gray sweatshirt. If I wanted to edit this and make it a product ID 1 and save, then it will say that one is already in the database because I checked that unique ID in the form design. Okay, so this did not allow me to save, and now I will need to enter a different product ID in order for this to save in my database. Okay, so I can't use the same product ID twice. This ensures it, even though I'm auto-generating the product ID. Now, when I'm importing data from my source file, it was this one. Because I checked the unique in my field form design, it will actually skip. What? Let's see. Try importing again. Oh, it's actually having trouble processing my spreadsheet. Let's try saving this again. As a CSV file. So it's best to keep that as a CSV file when you're importing. I don't know the technicalities for this, but it's usually easier to process. So let's import that. And you can see, well, it gives me a sample of the product IDs, but it will show these two twice because I have them duplicated in my spreadsheet, but it's not going to check it in this import step. Now, if I go forward and make sure that the fields are mapped correctly and then go forward again, you can see that in the import policy here, it's going to ask me how to handle duplicated keys. So the key is the first column of your import file. We usually want to make sure that the first column is the unique field that's supposed to be, and then if you already had data in your database, then it will actually check the key to see if anything was updated. So if I were actually importing the same thing to my database again with updated values, for example, the prices might change in my spreadsheet and then I want to update my values in Ragic with the spreadsheet that I'm importing, then it's best to use this method to renew data. So it really doesn't matter what I choose over here because I have the unique checked inside my form design. To remind you what I did check, let's go back to the product sheet and then I'll show you what we set up over here. So you see this key icon in my design mode? That's because I checked this unique setting. The unique setting in the import phase is going to ensure that I actually skip the duplicated values. So no matter how many times an entry is in the spreadsheet, it's going to skip that import. It will only import, I think, the first one, and then we'll skip the rest. If I did not have this unique checked, then if I were to create a new record, even though there were duplicates, it will still import everything, so you will definitely have duplicated values if you choose create new record. This is the same if you're importing like the same thing twice, then it will import the same thing twice and will not check for duplicates. Okay. The advanced are not really related right now for our case. So we're gonna use renew data, and we're gonna see how Ragic skips my duplicates over here. So you can see that it already imported. There were like 44 entries, and you can see that these were skipped because the product IDs were already in the database. Okay. Now if we go in and have a look, then we'll only see one green t-shirt. There you go. So I only have one value. So there may be a few things that are similar. For example, in my database, if I wanted to have more than one white recliner, that's fine. They may be different models that are similar, or they may have the same SKU number, but they're actually different products. Just make sure that you're using the correct unique ID. A lot of people like using the same SKU, but I have talked with retailers that have the problem, especially in clothing, where they have one SKU for the same product, but that product may have different sizes and then different colors, but it's essentially the same product. Then they want to have a sub number for under that SKU, and then they can use that as the unique ID. So that's also possible, and I have a whole video tutorial about that if you want to go look for it. But basically make sure that you're using the unique ID that makes sense to you. Okay? So you can actually make this further and then make sure that the product names cannot be the same as well, but it depends on your business model. Okay? So that would be over to the top on my products, so I'm not going to do that in this sense. But I do want the product ID to continue from after this number. So what I can do is I'll copy this ID, and then in the design mode, I can actually see that because I added 2 entries manually, it would be 1 and 2 with the sequence, right? So you can see the sequence is messed up, so I can actually add the number that I had here and then make sure that the sequence is gonna continue from the number after this, and then set it so that when I add a new product, for example, after white recliner, let's say we have a white ottoman, it will continue with the sequence I set. Alright, any questions so far? Okay, another way to have a look at your duplicates within Ragic is if I had, for example, a white recliner, another white recliner. If I want to create one, actually, I can duplicate this on my own. So I can clone this entry, and it will become a new entry with the same data. But of course, my first field product ID is auto-generated, so it's actually generated a new number for me. See, so it's the same essential entry. Again, if I do it for the Walkman over here, and I go to Tools, Clone Entry, and I have another Walkman over here, and let's modify the price. So this might be a different product if I wanted to duplicate the entry myself. So if I want to check for duplicates, it's great to use the total and summary. So if I want to look at one field, here I want to look at the product name. There's an arrow sign next to the product name. So I know that looks a little bit weird because this arrow is actually the closest to product name, but this it's always on the right side. So this arrow belongs to product ID. This drop down arrow belongs to product name. You can also hover on the arrow and see that the blue it turns blue basically when I'm hovering on the arrow according to the field type. So this is the drop down arrow for product name, and if I click total and summary over here, it will show me if there are any like records that are duplicated. So it's omitting all the values where we have like only one value, but it can like show them if you want to. This is a good way to check if you already have duplicates in your database. And it's saying I have 2 speakers over here. So if I filter by speaker, then I will see which ones are duplicated. So in my case, it's not really duplicated. They are 2 different products, but I probably want to make sure what I'm doing. So if I wanted to add an SKU number or a barcode number, it would be best for my data keeping over here. Does that make sense? So that's how you kind of filter out what was already there in your database. A limitation for this is if I use total and summary and it's showing me like I have 2 white recliners and 2 Walkmans and 2 speakers, I can't really click this text to filter it right away, so that's a limitation. You have to filter them again to have a look at the values, but it's still a good way to show what you already have in your database. Alright, so that's how you prevent duplicates being imported in Ragic, making sure that you can see values within Ragic with the total and summary, if you have duplicates or not, and then a good way to get rid of duplicates is to see if which one is the correct value and then delete the other fields. Sorry, the records that are really not supposed to be there. In my case, the speakers are different products, so I will let them stay here, but it's a good idea to have other fields, for example, the brand and then the barcode number and then some other fields to actually identify these products from each other. Of course, this is a very simplistic method of keeping products, but I think you get the gist. Any questions so far? No? Okay. And again, trailing spaces is a problem. So if I had speakers and the space over here, they would actually not be the same product anymore. But even if I filter by speakers, because it's a partial search, it will still show up too. But if I now do a total and summary, you can see, interesting. It was supposed to show me that they were two different products. Let's refresh that page and try again. Oh no, it's actually showing two different ones. Did I say that correctly? Oh no, I did not save it correctly. Oh, I think they took our engineers, I think, took measures to make sure there are no trailing spaces after a value, so that might be fixed. Yeah, so that's an extra layer of protection for you guys. It actually deletes trailing spaces, so that's not a problem anymore. But if I were to actually change one of them, sorry, let me do that again. If I were to actually change one of these to speakers with a small s over here, then they would be entirely different in my total and summary. So you can see that speakers is no longer here, and I still have the weight recliner and Walkman. But speakers are going to be one this, and the other one I can't really see. Oh, here it is. So these are different entries, and you kind of want to make sure that you're being consistent so that some categories, for example, don't get lumped together. Especially in fields that have like drop down values over here, selection fields, you want to make sure that everything is spelled correctly. Because when I'm filtering for furniture, if I had one as with a small f, then it will not actually be in the category furniture. So we have measures to prevent that, but I'm just telling you guys this. So that's the first place you want to look if you have a problem with filtering. Okay, and that's about it for data cleanup and preventing duplicates. Data cleanup can be done in Ragic with a few different things. You can use, if I were to eliminate the office, or let's eliminate, let's say I wanted to change all these electronics category into office, and eliminate the electronics category altogether because I'm downsizing. Then I can do that by filtering for electronics first. And then from tools, I can actually mass update. I can actually edit multiple entries to do this one by one through the listing page, but I don't really have to do that. I can go tools and mass update, and this works for the filtered entries. So I kind of want to change the category to office and then execute the mass update, and they become office from electronics, and that is also saved in the record history. So you can see what actually happened and who did that. Alright, I hope that makes sense. Yeah, that's a way to edit multiple entries within Ragic. There are also methods to do that from the listing page if you are doing quick edits. And again, if you're importing from your spreadsheet again, you can just edit. If you're more comfortable doing that, you can edit your spreadsheet and then re-import every value again. So if I were to re-import the values again that I had on my spreadsheet, these will update into electronics again because that's the updated version. So if we go Tools, Import Data from File, choose that one again. So this is what I meant by this image. So if we were to renew the data according to what we had in the spreadsheet, then it will check for the product ID, and then it's going to update the categories that I had. So the ones that are duplicated are again skipped. And if we go to our entries, you'll see that they're again in the electronics category because that was what I had in my spreadsheet. Okay. Okay, I hope that helped, and if you have any questions, ask now because I think that's about the material I had for this webinar. I know it's very simplistic and it might not be as straightforward as we think, so if you have any feedback about the structure, you can let us know too. And also, if you have any ideas on future webinars, I haven't announced June yet, and if there are great ideas, I would want to incorporate those. But what we're planning at the moment for June is that we want more simplistic topics for newer users. And, well, I do have a few in mind and would probably go through those. But if you have suggestions, please write them now so that we can consider them for future months. Anyone? Okay, I know the streaming has a little bit of lag, so I'll wait a few minutes for you to write questions if you have any. Alright, no questions. Well, if you do have any in the future, you can write to support@ragic.com. Please do not, well, I actually wrote a blog post about this, but if you have my Skype from a previous meeting, or if you would like to write to me personally, you can still write on support@ragic.com because that's the place that I reply the fastest, and usually I might be in a meeting or I might not see your email in time because I look at the ticket system more often. So please write to me through support. If I can't reply, another staff member will, and we usually take pride on replying as fast as we can because we're in 2 different time zones that are 12 hours apart. Alright, thank you all very much for joining. I hope this was short and sweet and informative. And oh, I actually forgot something. If you want to do a quick data entry, you can do it from the listing page now. So I can actually add anything I want to the listing page. See? So that's the plus button. Kelly is asking, can I go over the link and load feature? Actually, not today because we have talked about that topic, but I can link you some guides about that. Oh, so this doesn't generate the number I want. Interesting. Well, that's something I can report. Well, Kelly, I'm sorry, but that is very unrelated to our topic, but I can send you a few guides if you would like to have a look. So I will have a look at our YouTube channel and let's see videos and have a look and send you some of the. Well, this one works and this one also works. So I'll send you those in the. I should have popped that out. Anyway, I'll do that from my other computer because this is not very ideal to do. Yeah, so I'll send you the links now through here. But if you have any questions about that, please feel free to, ask us through the support chat. Sorry, the support email. And, well, should help a lot. And we actually have a guide on that as well. So I'll send you that. Oops. There. So this is the guide, the written one, so that you can look point by point. But if you have any questions, please email us at support@ragic.com and we'll try answering. Alright, everyone, thank you all so much for joining. I'll be logging off now, and if you have any questions, please write to me, and I'll be looking forward to future webinar suggestions as well. Have a great day, and bye.